Hello, everyone, and welcome back to still unnamed podcast. And we have our co-host here, Snarky,
What's up? What's up?
and of course me, Torloth, is here. This week on the show, we want to talk about the currently burning issues with Xbox Live and their atrocious DRM
Oh yeah.
system. I think that's a good way to say it.
Yeah.
Uh, Next on the show, we'll talk about Square selling off its Western division to Embracer Group for 300 million US dollars. And
Oh,
we're going to close out the show talking about Starfield because we're a little concerned. Just a little
yeah,
bit.
definitely. So
So let's.
what we got here with the DRM series. You were telling me about it earlier.
Yeah, so what seems to have happened is there's been some sort of flipped switch or something with Xbox Live all this weekend, and people have been unable to play games. And it's been to the point where single player games, even if you downloaded them or not, are telling you need to log in. It needs to verify, and that's not good. I don't know if this is all on the developers, this is all on Microsoft for the way the system's set up, but
Well,
it was weird
anything
because we
coding
were playing.
wise is going to be like, especially the stuff that's on live and on Xbox particularly. You're going to have Xbox, Microsoft's hands in the pie. You're going to have the developers' hands in the pie, possibly more than that as well. And so it's hard to really point to, okay, who screwed up. It,
I
it
think this is a lot on the Xbox DRM. The other
I,
thing I
yeah,
thought of, I just want to get this thought out there because the new consoles support smart delivery, and any game that you buy that's new, I'll pull out where's Yakuza Like a Dragon. Say they require internet on it, even though this is
mm,
a single player game. I'll put that on the camera so
yeah,
people can see it.
yeah.
And I'm wondering if what this is they were like, oh, we can use our system to do this, but people didn't realize that there'd be downsides to doing the smart delivery. Like, I think smart delivery is great. I don't think you have a next gen Xbox,
No, I don't.
but so basically, you can. There's actually a lot of crazy things you could do. There are good features, and I want to get those kind of out of the way so people know. If you buy a new game, right, like a disc,
Hmm.
and you can go on your phone on the Xbox app, you can type in the name of that game, and you can pre-install it on your Xbox. All you need to do is put in the disc or buy a copy digitally when you get home.
Yeah,
Cool.
gotcha.
But if the downside of that is I can't play my games if the server's down, even though I have my console set to the home console, that's kind of bad.
Well, this isn't the first time stuff like this has happened. I recall
No.
several times Microsoft stuff has gone down either through, someone spilling coffee on the servers or a DDoS attack of some sort. It has happened quite a few times, and really does outline the weaknesses of having all those smart features. When everything works, it, it's beautiful. It's one
Yeah.
of those things that like everything just your whole gaming experience is just smooth as silk. And the thing is that it's hard for people to realize is that anything in technology that works smooth as silk like that usually is a house of cards, and all it takes is like one little thing to go wrong, and all of a sudden nothing's working. All of a sudden, um, and that's not to say that we shouldn't have that. I mean, definitely you want that smooth as silk, especially Microsoft and Xbox in particular want to have that and give that really smooth as silk gaming experience, because at the end of the day that means more people are having a great gaming experience with Microsoft. But
Oh yeah.
when you got to do whatever you can to limit these moments, especially uh, moments where you're just trying to play a single player game. Like like if this was like Overwatch where you're playing online, if this is like, Final Fantasy, you're playing online, anything that you're playing online with a bunch of different people,
Oh yeah,
and something goes down, most of us are like, okay, this sucks, but I get it.
I'll just go
When
play
it's
something else. But when
Yeah,
it's you can't play anything
that's
because the
you
server's
get a
down.
little ticked off because at the end of the day, like, Microsoft and Xbox, they're catering not just to the people who have all day to game. They're catering to people who have work at 9 in the morning, and they come home at 5 or 6 o'clock in the afternoon, and then they got like maybe like 2 hours to game. And so that's something that's going to hurt them. And so it's always it's I don't think it's as big of a deal. It's just something that it comes up and everyone complains about digital rights management. Um,
I
and
think you just could
it's
do it better.
Yeah, definitely.
I think this is
Um,
gonna be on the meeting Monday or today, whenever this video goes up. It's gonna be like Monday. There's gonna be people in on the engineering team and going, "What happened, and how do we make sure this doesn't happen again?"
oh, definitely. Um,
Because
now,
I, f- I feel like the services side, Xbox is like offering fantastic things, and this is the first time we've seen it catastrophically fail. But it's been kind of consistent where it wasn't working the whole weekend. But it's kind of weird because people were saying it wasn't working Saturday night, and me and you were playing Back for Blood on Xbox Live, zero issues.
mhm,
It was playing like normal.
yeah. Now, for me at least, that was through the PC, but still through Xbox Live.
I was also playing on PC, but
So, I
they're
mean,
the same servers, as far as I
yeah,
know.
it's one of those things that it like to me, digital rights management means more than just like all the smart features. Because growing up with the internet, you have that understanding of digital rights management is the attempt to prevent piracy of your game. And the problem with that is, I think that's probably what's hurting them. Is with any live service, they're trying to make sure they query a server and go, okay, does this person own this game? Can they play it?
Yeah, I
And
that's the thing. It's
honest,
like if you have to query a server every time you want to play a game,
mhm,
that's eventually that server's gonna break. It
yeah,
doesn't matter if it's one per country, one per whatever, but if you
hmm
have millions or hundreds of millions of people, like the
stuff happens
Xbox, well,
across the
I think if
board.
we're
Stuff
talking,
happens.
oh yeah, for sure, and I, I think that there's probably going to be a change after this weekend because this is not something that they're going to want to happen again because it looks bad on the brand. It looks bad on
hmm
the brand particularly, and it looks bad on the product. And ultimately, you're
Well,
trying to sell a very good product.
hmm well,
Like,
ultimately, what Microsoft is selling is their Xbox Live services. Um, they're not even really selling the Xbox as a brand, just the service, because that's why they expanded it to PC and other stuff. They're making it so, okay, you pay us a small amount. Here you go. You have access to all these games. Um, the Xbox kind of extends that feature with then going and having all the delivery features for your digital games, and the ability to jump right into it. And so anything that kind of gets in the way of that, you're always going to have like it. Stuff happens, and it's. I don't think it's as huge of a deal as everybody on the internet is making it out to me. Mostly because it's stuff that happens before, and of course, there's going to be the PlayStation fans who are going to be like, "See, this is why you shouldn't buy an Xbox." And I'm like, "Well, you guys have had the same problems too, so sit down."
they have to a point, but Sony did
Everyone does.
address them, and
Hmm
Microsoft did not because there were some far be it some journalists actually pointing out that there was an issue with Xbox's DRM. The way it was set up when we were talking about the C-bomb as it was for the PlayStation. If you aren't familiar with that, audience or Snarky, there was the PlayStation for the CMOS battery. When it went and you replaced it, you couldn't play games anymore. It would tell you, do you need to connect to a server to authenticate the clock? And it wouldn't let you play games. Now, that has been fixed for the PlayStation 4 and from what I know, the PlayStation 5. But when that was happening, Xbox, yes, was smelling of roses, but people were pointing out that there were issues with the DRM situation. And then we had this happen, which is, it's kind of a weird weekend for it to happen too. It's like Mother's Day weekend. I don't know what extra strain or whatever caused this.
As much, I mean, it used to be that your mom was the person that didn't play video games.
Oh, I'm not saying that moms don't play video games.
That's increasingly changing, and I'm not either. It's just like, you know, the least people like our age, you know, your mom usually didn't play video games.
My mom did,
and that has increased over the years. Definitely.
My mom played too.
So, nice. My mom never played a video game. I don't think I've ever seen my mom ever play a video game ever. She's one of the ones that struggles with computers, period.
It doesn't mean my mom's like good with the computers, but she did play computer games. Like it did happen. I think the thing was that mom kind of didn't keep up with it, and that's why she's not super great with it. And now she's on a Pop OS laptop.
Nothing wrong with that.
Well, it's easier for her because it doesn't have Windows updates all the time.
That is true.
She was having issues with Windows updates, like closing her tabs, and she was losing her patterns for knitting. And that's another reason why you might not want to play your Xbox games on PC, because one, there's no quick resume on PC. I know they said it was coming, but quick resume is probably one of the greatest features of the Xbox consoles. Like, you just press a button and you're back in the game you were in. Obviously, if it's an online game, you might have to reconnect to the servers.
Yeah, but they've done a ton of work to make, like I said, make the gaming experience smooth. You power on your Xbox, you turn to the input. You don't really power off your Xbox anymore. You mostly just pull it out of standby.
You can turn it on. There is a low power state, and there's an option to turn off the low power state if you don't want that, and you can have it hard boot. Even the hard boot's pretty fast because they're SSDs. They're reasonably fast. 8-core 16-thread CPUs now. I don't know about the Series S. I don't have one, but
at the end of the day, what they're looking for is they're looking to give you that. You power it on and you're into it. You don't have to like dick around with it, you know, clicking this, click that, click this, click that. Okay, log in, wait. Okay, click this, and now you're in your game. No, you just go right into it, and that they've done a lot of work to make that possible. And that's something that they shouldn't shy away from.
No,
it's going to cause problems because they're going to be bringing this all together.
I mean, I got the Switch in my paw here, and if you can see, well, maybe in the camera, you can see, but there's the Saturn and Cognite Neptune Ninja Wars right there. Just tap 3 times and I'm back in the game right where I left off. Does it cause issues sometimes? Hell yes. But usually it's with online games or games that have an online component. Games that are purely offline, it's totally fine. There was an issue with Yakuza Like a Dragon, which is funny, that was the game that I picked up earlier, where at one point it would not let you reconnect a controller, so you had to exit out and reboot the game. But that issue was fixed later.
Yeah.
it was just a weird quirk. And the thing is, if you're gonna introduce a feature that's as crazy ambitious as, yeah, you can just switch between your games like this, like no problem, just click a button, like go to a menu,
Yeah.
click a button, and you're in another game.
But yeah, like I said, that's their goal, is to make that experience. You decide you're going to do it and snap your fingers and there you are.
Well, it'd be
I mean,
like,
there's definitely some people getting some overtime right now.
oh, for sure. And the thing is that those people can get overtime, and then there's going to be the big wigs and things that are going to be talking again. Like I said, Monday, or maybe later in the week, there's going to be a meeting, and there's going to be people going, "What happened? How do we make sure this doesn't happen again?" I don't see them messing up to the point where this is a problem again.
It depends on where the problem is. If the problem is somewhere in Xbox and how Microsoft is handling the digital rights, if that's the honest, like the core issue, they're probably talking about it right now. Maybe not coming to a final conclusion about it, but definitely tracking down the bug and trying to figure out what's going on with that. Because the thing is, like, when you don't really have, for live services, you don't have normal office hours anymore.
No, you would have
especially
people
with
who
something
would,
like Xbox, which they're trying to get, everybody around the world to be able to use Xbox. You're not having 9 to 5 hours. You're having shifts, and
I'm sure there's still 9 to 5 hours. There's still people who are there 9 to 5 or whatever. But yeah,
Oh, yeah,
you're right. There's
but
probably people who are there
there's
24.
people
There's
9 to
someone there
5,
24.
and then people from like 4 to so on, different shifts. You're probably your bigwigs, the person that's going to make that final decision. Like, okay, what's the problem with it? Okay, go ahead and fix that. Do that. That person's probably 9 to 5, but they're probably already got somebody working on trying to track down what's going on with that.
I'm
Because
sure they
it's
have
a core
tools.
issue.
I'm sure they have tools to know exactly what the problem is. And I feel like if it is, I feel like the DRM implementation will probably change in the future, and you'll probably see games have either indefinite license. Like because that's what I think PlayStation did. I don't want to like say that they did it better, but there are games that had indefinite licenses, and there's other games that have like temporary licenses, like your Game Pass games you download. It
Now,
would be
correct
nice
me-
to have an offline mode, though.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Isn't that what Steam does? They'll have a. It checks in
if
every once in a while. It doesn't
If
have
you
to.
enable offline, they do have offline modes, and they have had
Gotcha.
them for a while. I haven't had to use it in quite a while, to be honest. But I would assume that with the launch of the Steam Deck, which neither of us have, so we're full disclosure here, because you still can't get one, even if I wanted one. You
It's
can't
this
get one.
big, joyful piece of technology. It's out of our
I'm probably
reach.
gonna, I'm more in the need of a work style like laptop, like an ultrabook. That's my next big purchase, not a new console or a new game. I am interested in the Steam Deck, and if I can find one for a reasonable price at some point, maybe I'll pick one up to try stuff out on, but I don't think it's the kind of thing that I really just have to have. You know, it's just, at the end of the day, it's just a computer, and I've got
Yeah.
one of those.
Yeah.
But I would assume with the Steam Deck being a thing, they have much better online offline things. And maybe Microsoft wants to make a handheld or something. I don't know why they would, but they could.
I don't see Microsoft doing it. They're probably
could.
still a little burned from their phone department.
A little, but
Well,
don't know.
the big reason is, like, look at, like, how long did the Sony PSP?
the
PSP?
the PSP was hacked to crap, and it came out like 2000, just before the PlayStation 3, like 2005,
Now-
2006. Now I had them, and I was in the modding scene, and there was a lot of people that just like dumped games and stuff, and you could get them online. That wasn't me. I would dump games, but we dumped them so we could play them in like LAN because
Hmm.
my buddies didn't have a lot of money, and that's kind of the way you were in high school. You didn't
Oh
have a
yeah.
lot of money if you didn't have a job.
Hmm.
So I don't want
Well,
to be like people can't do this.
mostly what they're going to go to is probably just using your mobile phone, because I know with my Note 10 Plus, I know with the S22, you can do remote play for both Steam and Xbox
I know you
off of
can do
both
it
of
on the
those.
phone, but I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't care for it. I've got a.
I don't care for it either.
I think this is an S22. I want to say, but I honestly only bought it because I can't get an LG phone anymore because
Hmm.
LG stopped making phones, and I don't want to buy an Apple because my carrier has very few options in phones. Samsung's
But
basically nothing.
but it definitely works. The Xbox I like better because you're still using a controller. Well, you don't have an option. You have to connect the controller to
Well,
your phone.
when you connect to your Xbox, yes. But if you do it via XCloud, there are games where you can use the touchscreen.
Okay. I don't like the
I
touchscreen. There's
I
covering
don't
up half
either.
of what
I
I'm gonna
remember
look at.
one night I was like wired. I woke up, I had like a terrible nightmare, and I'm like, fuck, I need to just play a game, like just need to play a
Hmm.
game like right now. And
Clear
I
my
tried
head.
to boot up Slay the Spire and
Hmm.
on my phone. And even a game that's like turn-based and kind of slow and doesn't need it was not perfect on my internet. Granted, my internet has really crappy up speeds.
I think
Very
everyone
crappy.
does to some
Well,
degree. They,
unless you get symmetrical, which is
it,
not offered in my area, but it does exist.
it's not often everywhere. There's some places that have symmetrical. BIOS is mostly symmetrical, I believe. Um,
But that's another
a
issue.
lot of the
Like,
fiber is.
yeah,
I know my
I'm.
Comcast isn't. I wish it was.
Well, you're talking about U.S. carriers, Canada, so we
Hmm.
have different ones. But yeah, there's no fiber in my area right now. Hopefully
Yeah.
soon, but there's other sore spots about the internet here.
Hmm.
And I don't want to get into that right now. So
Yeah.
I think we have said basically all we want to say about the Xbox DRM. We
I
want them to do
I believe
better.
so. Oh yeah, because those features
I
are awesome.
They are,
And
and I can't
it's
wait to
most.
have Quick Resume on PC, man. Could you imagine just like, I'm just playing like Halo campaign. Hold on, oh, you want to go play Back for Blood? Like hit a
Well,
button and you're in the other game.
yeah. Well, it's more like we were saying earlier, the single player. Like if it's online, we expect there to be outage every once in a while. It sucks, but whenever you see it, you're like, okay, I understand this. When you
Yes,
see like a single player game and you have to log in, you're like, what the hell? Um,
I
this is
understand if
single
I go
player.
to
I
play.
don't need the internet for this.
Yeah, like if I go to play Elden Ring and it's like, oh, the servers are down. You can only play it single. You can only play it offline. That's fine.
Yeah,
That's fine. I'd rather be able to play the game than not at all because the internet's
yeah,
not working. And
yeah.
that's kind of our stance on the thing is
Well,
we just want
did
Microsoft to do better. But
DRM
like
is also a hard thing. Like it's easy for management to look at DRM and go, "Yes, we need this in our game because we don't want it to be pirated." But it's one of those things like every time they release a new version of their DRM, it's a month maybe a month. And somebody with a lot too much time on their hands goes, "I broke it and I cracked your game. Here it
yeah.
is." Internet. It's always best to offer services with that, and they're making it. It's understandable why they want to do it, but at the same time, if you offer services with it, you get more benefit to cost, because it's costing money developing DRM. It costs a
Oh
ton
yeah,
of
it
money
does.
because you're constantly having to update it. all for
Okay,
about a month.
that's for sure. And it's just like trying to stop people for a month. It
Yeah.
seems like it's not worth it. But let's get into our next topic, shall we?
So
Square
Square Enix.
Enix, yeah, sells the Western Division. That's Crystal Dynamics and Eidos Montreal.
Crystal Dynamics, Eidos Montreal, and then Square Enix North America is the three things that they are selling to. Um,
The Square Enix
I
Montreal
keep wanting to
Mobile.
say Nordic THQ or whatever.
No, but it's Embracer Group. Yes, Embracer
Embracer
Group
Group.
is
Yeah,
the purchaser
is the
of.
name now. 300 million, and that's
It's still
for.
That's so low. I know we were going through the numbers before the show and with profit margins and that, but that is low. Embracer Group got a
Well,
deal.
oh,
I don't care how you
definitely.
slice it. It's a deal. It's a deal. Square's like, oh, we got this money, and now they're talking about putting it into crypto and.
Well, what Square Enix decision making merits or cons to their decision making aside, um, it, it's easy to look at this, and we mentioned when we were talking earlier. You look at the games that come out of this. They're the Tomb Raider series, Legacy of Kain, freaking Deus Ex series. You got the
The brand new
Adventures,
Guardians of the
which didn't really do
Galaxy.
much, but the Guardians of the Galaxy one, which is the
Yeah.
new one.
Guardians of the Galaxy was a fantastic game, and I feel basically came out, and a lot of people were like, "What is this?" Even when they first showed it, everyone was like,
Mhm.
"What is this? Why do I care?" Because you know what they didn't have? That spice, that thing that makes Guardians of the Galaxy as an IP just the banter
Mhm.
and the
Oh, yeah.
music. Like when you think of Guardians of the Galaxy, what do you think about?
It's the roguish banter. It's honestly an entire team of rogues, misfits that through the power of 90s, 80s music and 90s music saved the day.
Yep, and
So,
it's completely
it,
stupid, and to not
yeah.
have any of that when you're showing the game off, it's like,
Oh
what?
yeah. Well,
Like,
individually, like the intellectual property, Tomb Raider, you have
do
you
we have
have this
a
brand recognition
list?
that that any game developer out there would drool over. Like everyone knows who Tomb Raider is. Everyone knows
Everyone knows
Guardians
Laura
of the
Croft.
Galaxy. These are things that are well-known, established intellectual property. And if you wanted to make a new game in this industry, you want to have that level of recognition. Oh, we're making a little game for a little storyline you might know, Tomb Raider, and everyone lights up, and go, oh, what's up? And
Yep.
so it's one of those things when you consider the intellectual property, you're like, that's they got it for a steal. But the thing is, you're getting that with the company, and the companies themselves aren't performing at a good rate. And corporate wise, they are living paycheck to paycheck. If they like it's easy to forget this with big companies like EA and Microsoft development going in. If they have their next game fall flat on its face, sell 5 copies, and that's it, they go, wow, that sucked, and they fire some people and they move on, and they still pay their bills on time. Eidos Montreal's next game flops, they start firing people immediately, and they're barely able to make it through the next year if they can. Crystal
Yeah.
Dynamics, the same thing. They release a new Tomb Raider game. They're going, and it falls flat on its face. People are going to have to lose their jobs, and not just like somebody in charge, which what would happen at EA, Microsoft. Somebody in charge would lose their job. The developer, they'd go, oh well, this wasn't your fault. You did your best. Move you to another department maybe and stuff like that. Crystal Dynamics, they're firing the whole team, not because they're punishing them, but because, sorry guys, we just don't have the money to pay you. And so
Yeah.
that's it. because the things, and I think I mentioned it to you earlier, like the expenses are something that stay. You don't quickly change your expenses unless you're rapidly expanding or you're trying to sell off the company. So your expenses stay pretty stable. And the thing that's unknown and always questionable is what your sales are going to be. Like, is this next game just going to catch just the glint of everyone's eye and everyone and their mom and their dad and buy 5 copies of the game? It's possible. You could release a complete game that you didn't really try on, and it just explodes, and everyone's like, "Oh my god, I love this game!"
Oh yeah, like
And then at the same
Five Nights
time,
at Freddy's is a
yeah,
perfect example of that.
at the same time, you could come out with this game, and you put like years of R&D effort into this. God, amazing, like Hollywood 4K, face capture technology, all this NASA punk technology coming into it, and it just doesn't click. And then all of a sudden, you spend all this money, all this resources, all this development time on something that didn't. And so it's just like,
And that's kind of, and when I look at the numbers, it makes sense why they're selling. I honestly had this suspicion before
yeah,
this was happening, when Crystal Dynamics said they were working with Microsoft and the initiative to make the perfect Dark game.
hmm
I was like, oh, so they're gonna work with Crystal Dynamics for a while, and then Microsoft's just gonna scoop up Crystal Dynamics and all their IP. That's what
Yeah.
I thought was gonna happen. But Embracer Group came in from left field and just bought all the Western devs, because I guess Square doesn't want to wait that long to do it.
Well, I feel I think it's a combination of, it seems very much it was priced to sell quickly. I think you were very when you mentioned that earlier. They're trying to offload this right now. Um, I think Microsoft's probably in a point where they're trying to pump the brakes on it a little bit, get everything of their current purchases settled out and fully approved, because they're still pretty much up in the air. They still have to get approval for their purchases for Activision even, and
Well,
all the other
that's
stuff.
still that's still early days, really.
Yeah.
It was the same kind of thing with Bethesda when they bought Bethesda, but Bethesda's a little different because the game was private, so we didn't have these numbers going into that.
hmm
But I had a suspicion that Bethesda was in a bad state before the Microsoft buyout. There's a lot of factors into that too.
Well, Bethesda was there's a bunch of stuff that I think, I can't remember what documentary. No Clip, I think, did the documentary on them, and
Yeah.
I think they touched on. I think either on purpose they had the picture of it, of what was going on, which what caused them to lead into Microsoft buying them up. Um, but it's one of those things. A lot of people are getting really mad at Square Enix about it, and that's where I don't understand. I'm like, they could be really evil bastard about this. They could sell the intellectual property on its own, and then piece by piece sell off the company, servers, and everything, and fire everybody. They could do that and be perfectly legal in doing so, and not need any approval whatsoever. Probably could make the money,
For
the same
sure.
amount of money, but they're
But
keeping the company together and just being like, here, someone else deal with this. Which, again, it's hard for us as gamers to kind of like look at this and not be emotional, because you fall in love with your particular storyline. Tomb Raider, Lara Croft, Jensen from Deus Ex.
I want
you
more
fall
Deus
in love
Ex.
with your
I don't
character. Definitely. I
look
mean, it's
at
a
this.
good game.
When I saw this, my first reaction was, "Are they gonna make another Deus Ex game?" Because I literally don't care. Because that's all. See, as a gamer, you shouldn't care who's buying who, as long as you get a new game out of it. What you
Oh
should
yeah.
care about is if the quality of the next game is less. Like, if we don't get our man, well, I'm not even gonna try to pronounce his name because it is insane. It's like Elias, the voice of Jensen. Like, he wants to come back. He wants to do it. He
Oh yeah.
said so, and he's been like, "Yeah, I want to do it," and they're like, "Well," and I get it
We'd
because
love to
they
have you,
because
but we're not doing anything right now.
yeah, but Square got burned on the last two games for some reason, which
I don't think they really got they got
I don't
burned.
know. We've got numbers here, but I don't know how accurate they are.
Something's going on. Like the profit margins are really like paper thin. From what
That
I'm
are
looking at,
reported
and
here. I'm not sure why.
and so either they're I'm hesitant to accuse anybody of mismanagement because I don't want to point fingers unless I'm looking
I
at
mean,
something that says this is what
EDS
happened.
Montreal
This guy
here's-
right here said this and put this purchase in for 1,000,000 trebles, and they didn't need any trebles. I'm like, okay, that's mismanagement of money. I mean, the end result is those games sold pretty well. Honestly, like when you look at the rating, the metrics that they were getting, was at Deus Ex, their average metric was 83%,
Yeah.
with stuff 12 million plus lifetime AAA units sold. It it's one of those things where you look at it and you go, okay, I think what really was the deciding factor is I think Square Enix bought them for doing mobile games, because you see they also did Deus Ex The Fall and Deus Ex Go, which are the mobile games
The
of their
Fall is
intellectual
not a
property.
very good game. It is.
And I
And
don't.
it came out just for iPad at the time. I remember when it came out, and I remember because Total Biscuit was still alive, rest his soul. I don't know if you ever followed him, but he was really mad about The Fall because he played it and it was atrocious. It was absolutely atrocious. It was.
And then you have
played
Lara
it on
Croft Relic
iPad,
Run from Crystal,
and that's the
Lara
thing.
Croft Go,
And that's the thing. Yeah, that's what Square wants. They want the mobile games. They want to hit the ultra casual audience, and I think that's the problem. Is they're trying to spread these companies way too thin. I think it's upper management messing up more than
I
management
honestly
at
think
the
it's,
companies. It's probably a bit of both.
I think it's more Square Enix is just not the right not the right management owner of these companies, and I'm hoping, definitely like everybody else, that Embracer Group would be a better fit for them, because, like I said, it's one of those things where Square Enix's main income source is almost
mobile.
by half mobile games.
Do we
and
have
so
the
it's-
other portion numbers?
Yeah, I'm okay. I've been through worse.
No,
let's
they
see
don't. They
here.
do, see the numbers here don't include their other businesses like manga and
Yeah, it
stuff
just shows
like in Japan.
their mobile games, HD games, and MMO.
What?
So,
No,
like,
I'm fine, man.
people
Just take care of
would
you.
be I would forgive them definitely for thinking Final Fantasy was something that they made a ton of all their money on. That's only a quarter of their profits.
We're
Or
talking
their
about Final
sales, I
Fantasy
mean.
14 here.
And all their MMOs is just 23% of their revenues. Whereas you look at their browser, their phone games, mobile games, 46%. They're geared, and I think rightly for them, towards that's making them money. They're paying their employees off of doing those sales. I don't
For all
particularly
those-
understand because I don't play mobile games, but
I don't really either, but I do understand that like the pay to win and the pay to play these games is a real thing, and people have this like sunk cost fallacy and they'll keep putting money into it. But the thing is, what I don't understand is they don't break out which mobile games are actually profitable, because Square has a ton of mobile games.
yes.
See, the thing is, like, they've got HD games here on this list that we're looking at, and from this tweet from Mr. Derek Strickland.
Mm-hmm.
And HD games are separate. Now there are games like the smartphone browser game include the Final Fantasy Pixel remasters that are only available on Steam and mobile.
Sorry about the downtime.
I believe
Does
so.
As soon as I can, but my Augs took a
well, you know which one?
I need to get
There's a lot of like muddling here, and I think they're trying to show that they're like we're more mobile than not. But I think a lot of people know Square for other stuff. Like they published some big turkeys recently too, and they weren't from the Western side. I want to say that like 80-90% of mobile game of the Western games that weren't mobile reviewed very well and sold decently well. Whereas there's been a fair amount. Okay, let's look at a fair amount. There's Neo: The World End With You. It sold really poorly. That was a Switch, PS4, and later PC game. There was Babylon's Fall that they published and Platinum Games made.
Mm-hmm.
I know the drill.
There was
Triangle Strategy, and then
Triangle Strategy probably did really well for them. Balan Wonderworld's another one, but that one we just heard some awful things about, and I own a copy of Balan Wonderworld, and I think it's a fine game. It's flawed, but it's good. If you want somebody to play with your kids, or for your kids to play when they're a bit younger, it's a pretty good game. Left Alive was a really bad one. Yep, that game is terrible.
Does it matter?
And the thing is that they're only talking about these games like touching on them. And the thing is, there's been a lot of them games that have come out that have been half-baked or undercooked, or I even have my suspicions that Final Fantasy VII Remake was they put a new manager on the thing, and he's like, well, we're chopping this up into different games now. Polish up this section and it's going out the door because we got to make money on it. Square has had this legacy for the longest time of doing.
What kind of understanding?
What I want to say is they have really ambitious projects, like their Final Fantasy 15 is a perfect example, and then Kingdom Hearts 3 and Final Fantasy 7 Remake is another one where it's been in production for, I think it was like suspected 10 years, because I showed the demo off when the PlayStation 3 was first revealed of like Sephiroth and Cloud fighting. Everyone was like, Final Fantasy 7 Remake? Like, how do you have a game in development that long?
yeah,
Supposing I
it's hard to say what it. Any type of project, it's
Any way for me to do that?
easy to be like, well, why is this taking so long? But there could be any number of things going on that's causing that. Across the board.
You mean bribery?
I mean, it could be they just got this bug that just would not go away, or every time they fix it, two more pop up. That's a common thing. Talk to anybody who's a programmer, they'll tell you that is their
Oh, for
life.
sure.
Clock in to clock out,
For
and
sure.
then beyond.
There's still information you mentioned.
But I want
But
to
it-
point out one thing, though.
Logs and offer them this
Final Fantasy VII Remake was like the start of them not using proprietary in-house engines anymore. Because Final Fantasy 15 was on an in-house engine, and then Final Fantasy VII Remake is on Unreal 4. I feel like they're trying to cut costs on development, and
All right, give me the
I
address.
like a lot of people.
To see who's behind all
I find them just being like, well, we're not going to make our own engines anymore. A little bit disturbing.
Well, that's always the temptation, because at the end of the day, there's not a lot you can do to control sales. You can do your best. You can hype up the game. You can go to this convention, that convention, tweet out a bunch of stuff, market it, advertise it on the internet, and do all you can to hype up the game and get people to buy it. And but at the end of the day, there's not a ton you can do to really control sales. You can hype up the game, and then someone release the game, and they just take it away, I go, no, I don't want this. No, out. I'm out. And the only thing that they do have control over is expenses. And because you need developers, you can't really fire your development team and hire them over and over again as you need them. So these are things that are pretty steady. And then at the same time, you're trying to figure out ways that you can reduce your cost in developing games. Now, that can definitely help you out a lot instead of not having to develop your own game engine. You let Unreal handle that. They'll handle the game development engine, and then you just figure out how to use it. But you're still going to have that hiccup because you develop your proprietary game engine the way you developed it for a specific reason. And that was your games. Unreal Game Engine is not developed for your games.
Nope.
It's developed for general games.
And you're going to have to deal with all its quirks. Because it has quirks, and it's always had quirks.
Yeah.
There have been a bunch of Unreal 4 games that have quirks. The biggest one's the ghosting. The TAA ghosting. That one I see a lot. And then the other one that people complain about is shader compilation stutter on PC specifically. Whereas the consoles, you can pre-compile it all before you ship the game because the hardware doesn't change. But with PC, you have to compile it on the fly.
Yeah. And it's one of those things that they've done a lot to improve that going into Unreal 5. But it's growing pains effectively. And I don't want anybody to take this as me, throwing shade on Unreal Engine or anything like that. It's just...
It's not a silver bullet.
If you've ever worked in a specialized industry, you've probably encountered a tool that is specifically designed to do one exact thing and can't be used for anything else. But it does that one thing perfectly. Or
like that tool that opens up a manhole cover.
Yeah, and does
you can't use it for much else.
And but so can you open up the manhole cover with something else? Yeah. But this was specifically designed for this, and so it does it the most efficiently. And you have that same thing. Square Enix developed, their game engine to develop games that they were developing. It's the same thing as you go look at Bethesda. Bethesda, was that the creative engine?
Creator engine, I believe
Creator
it's called.
engine. Yeah, they developed the creator engine to work on the games that they were working on, and so it did really good at those. Red
we also had
for CD Projekt Red.
Yeah,
they did, and so those game engines are what they're used to, and what they've been using for years and years, and have been designed and specialized to the games that they were developing. So all the different features that you saw in the games that you love are geared towards that. When you go into using a more generalized game engine, which even though Unreal Engine 5 is an amazing game engine, it really is. It's still a generalized
it's still
game
in
engine.
development and still needs some work, but visually all the features are there. I will agree 100%. And the TAA ghosting is not there. But if we get our first... Have we had a game ship on Unreal 5 yet? I know there have been games in production. I know Stalker 2 was one of the ones that was supposed to come, but I think...
But one of the big things is how they handle volumetric lighting. They handle volumetric lighting a lot, much more differently, more efficiently, I believe. And it does a really good job of it.
They also have ray tracing features and well,
but I mean, at the end of the day, with the sale, like it's understandable getting upset that they're selling your favorite intellectual property at a ridiculously low price. But understand, there's just other things involved in it. It's not Square Enix going, yeah, this is a steaming pile of crap, I'm gonna sell it. It's them going, this whole situation is not in line with our business strategy, and so we're not. The only other option we have is to dismantle it. So, does anybody else want to buy it? Just give us money, and we'll sell it to you.
Yeah, it's getting rid of a business that isn't making them a lot of money, and they're
Yeah.
probably.
And honestly, Embracer Group, I believe, is much more in line with the.
Embracer Group doesn't make multiplayer games. I don't think I've played a single game from them that is multiplayer only or games as a service or MMO.
Mm-hmm.
They were formerly known as THQ Nordic. They changed their name at some point for some reason. I don't know. Because they were Nordic Games before that, and then they bought out THQ, and then dragged the carcass of THQ around for a while. Like, I've played games from them, and a lot of them are Unreal Engine games. They don't have a lot of their proprietary software, and they're not all great. Like, they're just like Biomutant, which is okay. There's games like Darksiders 3, which I played, and it was fine. I feel like they don't have any world-class talent, and with this purchase, this is the only AAA devs that they have. Everything else they've bought is like AA. At best. At best. I'm not trying to be like that's a bad thing. It's just
Here's the thing. Embracer Group owns Gearbox. Embracer Group owns THQ Nordic. It's a situation where THQ Nordic is owned by Embracer Group. They have all their games, which Way of the Hunter, Superpower 3, Star Wars Racer and Commando Combo, Expedition Rome, Destroy All Humans 2. What is another one? Desperados 3, Darksiders Genesis.
Desperados 3 is a good game.
You've also got was this Coffee Stand Amplifier Saber is another one.
Oh yeah, they own Saber Interactive, and Saber Interactive does good stuff. Like I'm not saying that they're a bad studio, they're a bad publisher. I'm just saying that a lot of stuff they do is not the kind of stuff that you'd expect to come from a company like Crystal Dynamics and Eidos Montreal. Like Eidos Montreal and Crystal Dynamics make gorgeous technology fronting games. Like look at the Tomb Raider, the third Tomb Raider game, and it's like it still looks good today. And it's how old now? What, 4 or 5 years?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
The same with like Deus Ex, Mankind Divided. The game still looks really good. If you look at the new Guardians of the Galaxy game, it's built on the same tech as Deus Ex. It looks fantastic.
Well,
the actors look weird, but that's because you're expecting the movie actors. No Chris Pratt.
Embracer Group also owns this small little company called Deep Silver. They make some small games like Saints Row, Metro.
Deep Silver. No, Deep Silver published Metro. Do they own 2A games? Is it 2A games? Or 4A
they're
games?
either the publisher or something
games.
like that.
4A games.
But that's one of the games on their accolades that you can get.
Metro is another game that really pushes. Like I wouldn't call it like AAA, but it definitely is fantastic.
I mean, I believe you're right in the sense of that they're not really geared towards multiplayer games.
No, not at all.
And they also own Dark Horse Media.
Yep.
Which is
does that mean we can get a Swamp Thing game?
Oh God.
Can I get a Swamp? Wait, no, no. Sorry. DC owns Swamp Thing now somehow, but yeah, they own Dark Horse. I swear, it's just a bunch of nerds just like, these are our favorite studios. Let's buy them.
I mean, it's one of those things that it really depends on what they're doing with it and how they plan to take care of it. Like, Embracer Group seems like kind of like a governing ownership of other studios. They're not in that type of we're taking you over, taking you apart, putting you in, your team in this department, your team. I don't think they're going to do
Well,
stuff like that. I
there's a
do
couple other
think.
things I just noticed here. Crystal Dynamics has their own mocap studio.
Mhm.
That's probably like there's a lot of operating expenses with owning something like that. I don't know
Oh
if you've
yeah,
ever seen it, but I'm sidetracking a little bit because we're talking about mocap studio. Have you ever seen the live action dev mode cutscenes for Devil May Cry 5?
no, I haven't.
Oh my god, I have to show them to you. Cause there's like a dude in like a suit, and he's supposed to be the big demon. He's got a hoodie on, and he's like, "Bro," and he's like throws pillows out of his stomach. It's and they have like the car supposed to be doing stuff, and they have like the model car, and they're pulling it along. You're supposed to have the dash of the car. There's some boxes stacked up, and it's like there's a thing that says radio on it. And I'm like, oh, see, Capcom does this stuff, but they kind of do it on the cheap. It seems like they have like just a studio out back. Okay, guys, you can go do your thing, and that's how they do their cutscenes, or at least for Devil May Cry 5.
Yeah.
But having a full like motion caption studio, unless you're renting that sucker out on a constant basis, I think you don't need a motion capture studio all the time. You really don't.
And it really depends on how Embracer Groups handle it. I mean, you would think it would be nice to see an Embracer Group kind of like take a more hands-on approach to a certain degree, i.e., clearing the way for sharing resources amongst all their
Didn't they
operative
just
groups
buy
and
Flying
studios.
Wild Hogs? Did they have Flying Wild Hogs? And
Yeah, it's just showing the operative group
doesn't show okay.
on their website.
I can't remember if they had Flying Wild Hogs or someone else does.
But it's one of those things. It'd be nice to see if they went and said, "Okay, Gearbox, don't worry about a mocap studio. We have a studio with a mocap studio." And then all Gearbox has to do is be like, "Hey, I need this," and then they set it up. And Gearbox Entertainment isn't worrying about doing mocap and all that stuff. And then
Gearbox even care about animations though? Like, I'm not trying to be a dick. Like Borderlands looks fine, I guess. That's not even a knock at the like cell shaded. It's a lot of the things. Some of the animations just are weird, and they've always been weird in that game.
well,
But
it's really
I do see what you're saying.
Where, like, you don't see a lot of stuff that they need to share, and because a lot of these companies operate as a standalone capacity, and that's probably how Embracer Group's gonna treat them, as like, you go sit there and make us money, and as long as you don't lose money, we're gonna leave you mostly alone. Um, and for that matter, a lot of companies, or at least holding companies, that's what they do. They're like, you get to exist, and as long as we don't need to come in and fix it, you're good.
Yeah,
And
I
so,
don't know. We'll have to wait to see because this story is just really new, and we don't know what Embracer Group has planned. Except they're definitely going to be they're going to have more single player games, which is good
Yeah.
because let's be honest, the Avengers was crap. I've played it, and there's like glimmers of good single player gameplay in it, but then there's a sea of just bland and not fun multiplayer content.
oh yeah, and See, it's always harder to judge the development of those types of games because you look at some games and you can clearly see where the problem is. You go, okay, you have this entirely passionate group of game developers for this intellectual property. They're all about developing for this, and then you see like the long amount of overages and delays that they have, and you're like, okay, the situation that's going wrong in this part right here is the project manager or the team lead is the wrong person for the job. They're not doing their job properly. And then you have games like Mass Effect Andromeda, where the entire dev team super passionate about the game and the intellectual property went way out of scope, and then you have in the world of project management, you have what's called scope creep, something that you go, okay, it's going to take us 12 months to develop this, and then you keep adding more stuff, and all of a sudden you have 24 months to
Feature
develop
creep,
this,
man.
and then you had
Feature
more stuff
creep
and more
is
stuff,
real.
and that's why and it's very common with creative groups is you have that you need to have someone with kind of his or her feet firmly on the ground going, okay, that's a good idea, but we're going to have to make that into the DLC or a sequel, and kind of controlling the chaos of creativity so that they can meet that deadline or come close to it. There's nothing wrong in any type of creative field, and for that matter, delays on games are so common that it's to the point we're not really even that complaining about it. Like I can't think of a single time that I've oh, it's gonna be 3 more months. Oh, well, that kind of sucks, but okay, you do you. I'll wait
Oh yeah,
patiently.
for sure.
Like
But
I've never
speaking of
reached.
games that have not shown us enough, let's just get into our last topic here because I think that you're kind of borderlining on it anyway. So we want to talk about Starfield.
A game that is throwing up more flags to me than my ex-wife.
Oh man, let me tell
Well,
you, this is see.
I want it to be
I'm
a
gonna
good game.
back up. I'm backing up a step, and I'm gonna tell you straight up. I have been. I don't want to be like a fan of Bethesda game soft, but I've played a lot of their games. I think everyone that's come out I've played,
Hmm.
except for Fallout 4 VR. I think will be the one I didn't play.
Uh-huh.
But if we're talking just strictly Bethesda GameWork games, not games they just published,
They say
yeah, I played like Fallout 3. I played
that the field of stars is so vast.
Oblivion, Morrowind, and Skyrim, even though I still don't.
Part of our
Oblivion ruined all those games for me. I'm gonna be honest, it was not good.
It's the key to
Mhm.
unlocking.
And I played all the new Fallout games, which are good. Like, New Vegas is the best.
This is all we've been working
But-
towards.
Obsidian is with Microsoft now, and so is Bethesda. So maybe.
Humanity's final
I don't think it's gonna happen, but maybe. I'll get the Fallout license, or you could give it to NXL. Get a
That's
classic
why we're here.
Fallout going.
Well,
But so you much more like Skyrim and that, right? Like you're much more.
my first introduction into Bethesda was Skyrim. Like I saw this game get released, and I'm like, that looks really cool, and I had like $50 just chilling, and I was like, screw it, I'm playing this game. This looks like a really fun game. I'm gonna try it, and it was. And then I got to experience the mod community around it, and I was just absolutely amazed at just the creativity of this community of people who are just like, hey, we got a lot of time on our hands. Look, I'm just gonna let you know
for
I got
sure.
some time on my hands. Here's some stuff I've been working on. Let me know what's up. Do you like it? Is it cool? And it is so beautiful to see a game come out, have a community of people be so passionate about that game that they're like, oh, and we're gonna mod it and change it from the ground up. And
Man, and they did it for like 10 years plus,
Yeah,
and there
it's
still hasn't been a
going.
sequel.
Still
But we were
going.
also there day one for Fallout 76.
And then to see, like, I also played Fallout 3 and Fallout 4 and Fallout New Vegas. And I have always enjoyed the Fallout franchise from the first ones on. And it's always fun to play those games. Do they live up to the hype? We can argue that.
I have a lot of
I
problems with Fallout
was
3 and its
very
storytelling and its terrible ending. But I'm not getting into that here. But for the most part, it
Fallout
has been.
76 fell flat on its face.
Oh my god.
Absolutely, like it was
Man,
like
those-
seeing the Todd Howard train hit a brick wall, and it stopped just working. And
The
so
bugs in it were amazing. Do you remember that time we were in the stupid factory and that ghoul's head was like out from the door all the way into the building?
or when the
Just
water
stretched.
just decided, nah, I'm not showing up to work today.
Yep. Oh
and,
man.
and they're gonna do that, and then turn around and look cross-eyed at CD Projekt Red and be like, "Your Cyberpunk game's pretty buggy." Really, Bethesda? I think you need to
Bethesda?
sit down and shut the whole hell up.
Oh, for sure. and that's the thing. Like after the catastrophic introduction of Fallout 76, and I remember Fallout 3 on is it 3 or New Vegas on like PlayStation 3. There was a bug that the save file would just get exponentially larger and larger and larger until it ate the whole hard drive.
Yep.
It was just like, how do you have bugs like this in games? Like, did you not test this at all? And I get it. Like, those games were ambitious for the time.
Oh, definitely. And I'm not like, it sounds like we're being overly critical of Bethesda. We love Bethesda like you
It's
love
tough
some
love.
people that hurt you sometimes, you know. We know, as does everyone who's a fan of Bethesda games. Bethesda game comes out, it is going to be buggy as hell.
I want to preface. I
and
want
someone's gonna
to.
fix it eventually.
Yeah, someone else is gonna fix it, and that's kind of the thing. I want to let people know that when we're talking about Bethesda games, we're talking about Bethesda the studio, not Bethesda the publisher, because
Yeah.
there are games that came out under the Bethesda logo, like Doom 2016 and Doom Eternal, which are well-oiled machines, and
Oh yeah.
I don't think I ever had.
Especially by comparison.
Oh my god, the id Tech 6 and id Tech 7 just. Have you seen the RT mode on Doom Eternal?
Yes, you showed me that one.
Yeah, where you like look in
Good
the
soup.
little,
Good
like the.
soup.
They're just. How did they get that to run at 60 FPS? I don't even. All the health globes, the little health bottles, reflect the world around them. It's like. Its software is like mass. It's like mega, like huge brain. And Bethesda's games look so bad in comparison.
All right.
That's what.
So here's the thing, though, that's some of the red flags that's coming up with this game. All right, I used to work in sales. I've worked in a lot of sales, and one of the first things sales people will do is they will use specific terminology for their industry. It won't mean anything. It will be stuff that they came up with for that particular industry. And so your first red flag is making up terms out of the blue. So you have was it NASA punk is what they called it? And I'm just like, okay. Okay. All right, look. You're talking about hard science fiction. That's all you're talking about. You're like, this is going to be more serious science fiction. You're making up something out of whole cloth to give it a fancy name and make it sound. Whenever I hear people start to talk about, things and they use the $10 and $20 words, and I'm just like, guess what? Typical gamer here, don't care about that $20 word. What does it look like? So we go to see what this Starfield looks like.
Sandwich. Sandwich.
And I realized
It was a
we
good looking
have
sandwich.
concept art. We have concept art. We have the image of a robot moving. And here's
That
the
was
thing.
that video
Here's
with the
the thing.
sandwich.
And the video with the sandwich. All things that a YouTuber showing me how he makes a scene in Unreal Engine 4 or 5 will take a week to do. And make that scene play out and animate it. Understand, the stuff we've seen so far is something that they're reflecting on a game that was quoted by Todd Howard as being said in 2018 as internally playable. Okay? Internally playable.
Do we have a source for the internally playable? I don't want to be just saying stuff. No, if you don't, it's fine. I was just curious.
I had it. I don't have it up in front of me right this second. Let me see if I can.
Yeah, it's a 90-minute show. I'm just trying to figure out when this. I was trying to remember when the Bethesda Xbox showcase is. It's sometime in.
Okay, so
June 13th is the thing, so we're pretty close to it. And I'm sure we're gonna see gameplay there, but I agree. NASA Punk just makes me think of some kid wearing a NASA jacket with with patches on it.
yeah, it's entirely possible that I am fully worrying for no reason. Starfield's going to come out and be this just absolutely beautiful game, albeit buggy. Huge world, again, dry lines, but a working good game from Bethesda. I'm hopeful that that's the case, and I'm just worrying for no reason. But I know we have seen gameplay footage by now. If it was Skyrim.
I'm trying to think because we saw. Remember, we didn't hear anything about Fallout 76 before like E3, and they showed it off at E3, and we're like, "Oh, multiplayer Fallout. That sounds like fun."
Yeah, I'm willing to forgive him and chalk this up to we haven't seen anything yet, truly, because E3 and all the different conventions just aren't happening like they used to because we've had the pandemic going on. And I'm like, that's fair. Okay, fine.
I think E3 is basically dead at this point. Missing it for like what?
We've seen those three things, and we've seen some screenshots of them working on the game in engine.
Go see if I have any other Starfield
Other than
stuff
that,
we
I have
missed.
seen nothing.
Did we look it up on Twitter before?
Well, I have one
Starfield.
article from DualShockers.com where
DualShockers is talking about it? Why would DualShockers be talking?
Oh, back in this was back in 3 years ago. They were talking about it. Where Elder Scrolls
3 years ago. Oh my God.
was in pre-production, and Starfield is in production. And he said,
No, guys, I know you guys want Starfield to be Game of the Year, but we need to actually see the game before we say stuff like that.
I mean, here's the thing. All right, we've seen how Cyberpunk 2077 came out, right? We can all agree that that was not the most comfortable and smooth launch in the history of game development. I think we can agree on that one. We had gameplay footage of that.
We did. We had gameplay footage for a while, but Bethesda likes to work differently, unless it's like a QuakeCon game. Yeah,
It's just
I'm really
nothing-
not seeing much.
Nothing about it. At E3 in 2018, Todd Howard was actually said that Starfield was internally playable. Now, let me
Former
E3.
Starfield dev. 11 days ago says there might be too much content for the game to ship on time.
Yeah. And that they're going to have to cut a bunch of content. There's like 100 hours right now. Content? I like that. That's good. And Ginger Mule and Live QA. It was a live QA at E3 in 2018. Todd Howard revealed that their next-gen new IP, Starfield, is currently in full production and playable internally. Now, if that means that there's just no skin on anything, they don't have any textures on anything, and they just have a little blue light indicating where you are, and they count that as internally playable, I don't know. I just know that a company that is not known for its polish. Like, if this was Blizzard,
Bethesda...
I would totally be like, yeah, they're still working on it.
Yeah.
It probably looks beautiful right now, and they're still like, it's not quite ready. We got to give it that Blizzard polish.
Bethesda is definitely... Bethesda Game Studios definitely does not shy away from releasing something that is not quite ready.
Yeah.
So, will this game come out on time? Yes, maybe. Do I think it's gonna be perfect? No, I really don't. And the thing is, I see this article here, and I'm like, do I think this guy's legit and saying that they're right? I don't know. Honestly, we will see in a few weeks, actually. It's June 13th is the Xbox Bethesda showcase, and if it's coming out this year, they got to show it then.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's got to be shown.
It's about 6 months from now that it's supposed to be released.
Remember, they did reveal Fallout 76 6 months before it came out. Like, it was E3.
That is true.
And they didn't see it. But the thing is that people like found out the name Starfield, and that's why Todd Howard even mentioned it.
Gotcha.
It's like, how did you guys know?
I mean, I guess
I don't know where you guys found this.
I guess part of it is like, I'll see a YouTuber, like I saw a YouTuber, Colt Eastwood, he was talking about Starfield, and he had scenes from Star Citizen, and I'm like, okay, why don't we have anything from
appreciate
Starfield?
Colt Eastwood. I appreciate Colt Eastwood, and I understand why he'd do that, so he can give you like a visual representation of what he assumes the game is going to be similar to. But Star Citizen is a much more...
If I was to be particularly critical of Colt Eastwood, I'd say he outright lied.
Did he say it was real footage?
Gameplay review for Bethesda, Starfield, and Elder Scrolls.
I haven't watched the video because
you see nothing but like concept art, and don't get me wrong, not trying to call Colt Eastwood out or anything like that. It's just it's something that added to the red flags I was seeing. I'm just like, man, I want it to work because there isn't a lot of good space games out there. They're there. Don't get me wrong. I don't want anybody coming for me be like, well, what about this space game here?
What about Mass Effect? What about Halo?
Yes.
What about? It's like,
there's good games that exist, and I played them. I'm always on the lookout for new space games, and it's something I always enjoy. And I want Starfield to be successful. It's just I would see them talking about it. I'm like, okay. Give me something, anything, please. Just show me that this isn't going to be Fallout 76. Because realize they're coming back. Their last game was Fallout 76.
Yes, that is.
Which was more buggy than Cyberpunk 2077. Let's just realize that right now.
Yeah, it
buggier
was
than 2077.
Starkey, did you ever get that bug where the game deleted itself and had to re-download itself because of the Bethesda launcher?
Yes. That was the first bug I got.
Yep, it was awful. Gotta download the whole game again. And my internet's slow.
My internet isn't slow. And I had to wait a whole nother day. Like, it was like, all right, I downloaded it, got it installed, at first I powered it on long enough to be like, okay, it acknowledges it's there, it's ready. I'm ready. Let's my body
Because remember they had
is
the
ready to accept this Fallout goodness.
well, they had the beta, right? And I remember my friend wanted to come over and check it out because I got in the beta. Because remember, in the Overwatch team, that guy worked at Bethesda and got us codes for the beta. I don't know if he gave you one or not, but he gave me one for the Fallout 76
how
beta.
I got the beta. I can't remember how I got the beta. I got the beta. I can't remember how.
Yeah,
But it's
I don't
one of
know.
those
There was a
that I
guy who was
wanted
working at the
to work.
booth, but it didn't. It didn't. And we just went and got Chinese food and waited because it was like, oh, it's time to go. And we're like, okay, whatever. We were doing other things, and then it's like,
Yeah.
oh, the servers are supposed to be up, and then the game just deleted itself.
Yeah.
I'm like, what
And
am I supposed to do?
And it's one of those things where I love Bethesda. Not, and this is going to sound bratty and sound like really like an asshole thing to say around Todd Howard, but not because of Todd Howard, albeit he's a great guy. I love hearing him talk about his games because he's passionate about it, well-spoken. But at the same time, it isn't anybody from
Just works.
Bethesda that makes Bethesda games great. It's the mod community. I know that if they're going to come out with a space game and if they allow mods, I am going to have an adventure throughout the years.
We're gonna go to boobies. We're gonna go to boobies.
Wherever you want to go. Wherever
No,
you want to go.
have you ever played
you want anime? You want to anime boobies? Here you go. The mod community will have you. You want
Okay,
to
you
be
haven't watched
able
Space Dandy. I'll have to make you
have
watch Space Dandy.
a goth experience, like a full-on H.P. Lovecraft level goth experience in space. Somebody in the mod community is going to put that together, and that's what I love about Bethesda games, is because for the longest time they've supported that, and it really hurt when I saw Fallout 76, and it's like, you're not supporting this at all. The best
They said
part
they were
about your
going
games,
to. They're going to figure out how to do it, but I don't think they.
I really hope they do, but
I don't think they have.
like, really, to me, the big thing is I want Starfield to be a good game. I want it to work to a good enough degree that people mod for it. Which, again, sounds like a Brett. The most left-handed compliment I could ever give to some company.
Do I think it's left-handed? Maybe. Honestly, I don't blame you, because the most content you've gotten from Bethesda GameWorks has been mods for the longest time. So I can't.
I mean, just straight up, just Skyrim Special Edition, right? 49,000 mods.
Are you?
Fallout 4, 42,000 mods.
Thank you. Oh my god. No, it's
Like-
just, sorry. I was trying to look up to see if there were mods on Fallout 76, and Steam was not showing me games that were installed.
know.
Community Hub. Let's see.
I
Don't
really
worry,
wish
Mega, for
CD
Fallout
Projekt Red would support mods to their games a little bit more. I would love to see what Cyberpunk 2077 would look like in a few years after the mod community gets a hold of it. That game would be dope as hell. It'd take me forever to install everything. As anybody who's installed
Oh my
all
god.
mods knows.
300 gigs of mods. I don't have enough drive
Right.
space for that stuff. I don't see any mods on the Steam page here. So I guess it's still not a thing.
I mean, if you didn't care about Skyrim Special Edition, just straight Skyrim, nearly 70,000 mods. Like, and that's not even the super big project. That doesn't
Oh,
even
for
reflect
sure.
the super big projects properly. Because there's projects that are like, we want to put all of Oblivion on, or all of Tamriel on Skyrim's engine. And they're just working it. A team of people just because they enjoy the content so much. And I love that about Bethesda games, is that community development. And that's a big reason why I want Starfield to work, is I want it to work with that type of mod community development. I mean, we've seen what the post-apocalypse would look like modded to hell and back with Thomas the Tank coming for our ass. We've seen what Skyrim looks like, also with Thomas the Tank flying through the air coming for our ass. There's a theme here, a little bit of fear of Thomas the Tank Engine.
Is it the hate of Thomas the Tank Engine? I don't know.
I don't think it's hate, it's just a healthy fear of Thomas the Tank Engine.
I mean, if I look through my list here, I have a lot of games that are Bethesda published. Like, I own every Fallout game. Fallout Tactics is here, New Vegas is here, Fallout 4. I don't think I miss 76. I guess the mobile game I don't have, but it never really appealed to me. The bunker one or whatever. That's the thing, like, Fallout I liked better because it had guns. And if this is like, this is gonna sound pretentious because I know a lot of people liked the Outer, is it Outer Worlds or the Outer?
Yeah, the Outer Worlds, right?
Outer Worlds, right?
The Outer Worlds. Unless you're
Yeah.
talking about
If
the
it's
Outer Wilds.
if it's exactly like yeah.
Yeah,
You
the Outer
sure?
Worlds. The Outer Worlds is a game by Bethesda Entertainment.
Yes. Before they got
And-
bought up by
Again, Microsoft.
before they got bought up by Microsoft and before the
Oh,
private
yeah.
division of it. If it's exactly like the Outer Worlds, I'm gonna be so disappointed because what I disliked about the Outer Worlds was that it was too much like a Bethesda RPG game and not its own thing. And it got boring after a while. Not because it's bad, but because it's just, I played this and I kept getting kind of pulled out of the experience. And I just wanted it to be better. I didn't like the characters as much in Outer Worlds. But the corporate shilling and stuff was fun.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, like I said, it's one of those things. We haven't seen anything, so I'm kind of tired of hearing about people talking about how amazing Starfield.
Yes, I get really annoyed when it's like,
And it's
this
just
game's
like,
the game of the
this
year.
game's gonna be so great. It's so much better than Cyberpunk 2077. Cite your source. From what information are you proving that?
You got some gameplay? Show me.
Don't
Mike?
get me wrong. It might be, but you've got
You
some
got any of that
artwork
gameplay? I feel like a crack addict, you know?
and
Yo,
some
man.
animation, and that's all
Hey.
you got. You don't got a single bit of gameplay.
Hey man, you got some of that gameplay? You got some of that gameplay? Give me that gameplay. Yeah, it's like I feel like a James Chappelle sketch talking about stuff. It's just so
And
dumb.
it might be better than Cyberpunk 2077. I hope it is, because that was a horrendous launch, and they could have done better. And I'm disappointed in CD Projekt Red.
Honestly, CDPR should have been like, it's next gen console only right now because the base consoles do not run this game nice. They would have gotten a lot of hate for it.
They should have taken it on the nose and delayed it.
I don't think they
should've,
could have.
Like it would have sucked. It would have kicked off both investors and fans alike. But if they released it now, as opposed to back when they did release it,
Okay, so I do have.
they wouldn't be
bought-
the punchline for a joke.
I actually went out and purchased a physical copy of Cyberpunk 2077 for Xbox because I could get the 1.0 disc. Now,
Gotcha.
this actually has it's on 2 Blu-rays, and you can install the 1.0 version. You can see how bad it was at launch. The new version on Xbox, you have to download the entire thing basically again. It's a brand new game.
Oh yeah.
And if there's a disc version of that, and I find it cheap enough at some point, I might buy a copy of that to have, because it'd be fun to have it.
Oh yeah.
You know, because the thing is that I don't want people to say that. Like, I know Cyberpunk came out in a terrible state, and if you were playing it on a last gen console, like
it was
the
unplayable.
Xbox One,
Not in a tongue-in-cheek way. It was literally unplayable. Like, you would play for 30 seconds and it would crash.
yeah, if you
That's
remember
what
we had
one of our friends was saying.
yeah, she couldn't get it to do anything. It was
At
awful.
no point in time am I trying to lessen, the screw up that was the launch of Cyberpunk 2077. It was a screw up. It's just we hear all this is going to be this, and I'm like, you have nothing. You have artwork, which is beautiful artwork. You have some animation, beautiful animation.
We saw a robot dog.
But that's it. You have a sandwich. That's nice.
Sandwich?
I like sandwiches. But that's not a game.
No, it's not a game. There's nothing tangible there. So we got a spaceship. I guess there's food things. There was a helmet with cracks in it, but that all looked CG. It all looked fake. It was. It's like you said it was in-game engine, but I don't believe you because.
Oh, I mean, it's in-game engine. Like, you can make an animated scene in Unreal 5 in-game engine.
Yeah, No, you're
It doesn't mean
100%.
it's accepting any input or anything like that, and that's really what I'm saying. Is like I fully expect that there's a lot of the artwork assets that are done, especially if it's internally playable back in 2018.
I think they do show it. I definitely think they show it in the next few weeks when the showcase happens on that Monday.
Definitely, hopefully.
Now, I'm just curious. Do you think they lead with Starfield or they end with Starfield on the showcase?
Who, Xbox?
Yeah.
Or
because Xbox Bethesda showcase is one thing. If you're showing, if we don't know what else they're gonna show, I'm assuming we'll probably see gameplay or announcements or more release windows for some of the projects they announced before, like the remake of Fable, Avowed, games like that. We might see more of that. I think we're gonna see a couple Game Pass announcements for games, but I really think that there's gonna be like a shadow drop. They like to do the shadow drop Game Pass announcements like they did last year with, again, sitting on my desk because I was talking about earlier, Yakuza Like a Dragon. Seriously, if you like serious crime dramas and middle-aged men, or you are a middle-aged man and you're tired of playing Japanese games where you play a teenager, Yakuza Like a Dragon is chef's kiss. But don't feel bad if you cry, because there are parts where it is very sad. It's okay to cry. Now, this is a 6 steelbook. Okay, what do you think? Back to the question. Do you lead with Starfield, or do you end with Starfield?
Well, it's either Starfield or Redfall. It is my prediction between those two, because you got
Redfall's supposed to be out in August, but there's been rumors that it's going to get delayed. And Redfall is definitely a game that interests us, and we're definitely going to play it together because it's apparently some sort of multiplayer thing. I can see how good our co-op will be in that.
Well, from what I'm seeing, Microsoft has confirmed that it will host a joint Xbox Bethesda game showcase on June 12th, this coming year. This coming June. And the two it's mentioning is Starfield and Redfall.
Redfall was supposed to come out in August.
I want to say
or summer. So this would be the start of the summer. This would be when you're going to show gameplay. That's another game we haven't seen gameplay for.
I would say it's big and how they want to present it.
90
I've seen them.
minutes show.
I've seen them do both. I've seen them lead off with their big games,
Like they did with Halo,
then-
and people, and
yeah.
it bit them in the butt because it wasn't quite done.
It may be that they start off with smaller games. I've seen both from E3. So it really depends.
Forza Lego DLC.
We're gonna hear about both of them, definitely.
Oh,
Starfield
for
and
sure.
Redfall is definitely going to be heard about in E3. I think a lot of my fears and concerns would be relieved if they show actual gameplay from Starfield, which I hope is the case.
I think they'll show
by Bethesda
gameplay,
there.
but
I
it's
wanna
not
see
going to be a.
Papa Dodd.
I think what's going to happen is they're going to show some gameplay there, and then have a later date where they'll show more and have like a developer interview. They did that last year, where they had like a quick and concise hour and a half announcement, and in the middle there was like, again, there's in the middle there was the Yakuza Like a Dragon got put on Game Pass. So I wouldn't be surprised if we saw a game like Judgment and Lost Judgment go to Game Pass. But who knows?
I'm looking forward to it, definitely. Both of those games are something I'm excited about, even with the red flags that I saw.
Well, both the games, I think we can raise a lot of the same criticisms to Redfall. We've seen a cinematic trailer where it's like, this is what the game's
That's
supposed
true.
to be like. But we haven't seen much else. Like, we've seen character names and maybe some stats screens and stuff. We saw like little bits and pieces of stuff, but we didn't see much of Redfall besides the cinematic trailer.
Mm-hmm.
And this is, I think, the first multiplayer game that Arcane's ever made. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong.
It's definitely a shift from what they're normally used to.
Yeah, kind of immersive sims to making something multiplayer. And I kind of feel like if it's because you're supposed to be able to stealth through stuff, and I know you are like me, and it's stealth until you get caught, and then everyone's a target.
It's stealth until I see somebody big enough, and then it's spray and pray.
You could have just hid for a minute, and we could have just murdered the guy and left. But the big machine guns. God, I don't know. It's those are like the two big games that Xbox got for the year. If I had to put a criticism towards the way Xbox's release cadence has been, it's too. Their first party stuff is too leaning towards the like latter half of the year, and they have nothing at the start. It's like end of the year's all our content, and you need to space it out more, I think, if you can. I know it's not getting content, like getting games to line up like that would be very difficult, even with all the studios that they have.
Oh yeah, and it's more just grinded out. I think that's really at the end of the day what Microsoft's looking to get is that constant, like, it may be that we don't have a game this week for you, but this month we've got a game coming out for you. And I think that's a big thing that what Microsoft wants to get towards, especially with their Game Pass, is to have something new every month or so. Because if you have that, they're getting a hit on a lot of interest on their server every month. And it may not be like a huge amount of like, AAA game level hit, but it's a constant, hey, you got this game that you want to check out. And while you're there, you see this other game you want to check out. And it gets people interested and keeps them interested. It's the same thing as when you go into a grocery store and they design where everything goes in the grocery store.
Oh yeah, for sure.
You have to walk around.
There's a lot of I don't want to say it's
concept.
like market manipulation, but the Game Pass is definitely set up with, it's like they're using their own games as, I guess, a lost leader like Milk or whatever a place will have
Yeah.
to get you in the door, and then you see the other stuff that's there, and you're like, oh
Hey.
man, there's Death's Door over there. Oh man, you see that Tunic game over there? Like,
Yeah.
there are good
Totally.
games. It's like, wait, they have Guardians of the Galaxy?
Yeah.
Wait,
And-
Yakuza's here? Like,
Definitely.
it's yeah.
I think that's a big part of why people are finally starting. Well, I don't want to say finally, but starting to get concerned with Microsoft. And at the same time, they're being kind of overly critical of Microsoft. You need to have that level of game involvement in a streaming service like that, or a live service like that, to be profitable, because you need to have that constant pull to have people come in, browse around, play some games, and leave, and then have an interest to come back again.
Yeah.
Because
We don't want people to
otherwise it'd be a gym membership. If you pay for it, you go a couple times, and you go, that's enough, and you
Yeah.
end up paying for it for the next 12 months.
Yeah, you don't want that. And there's definitely some of that. And I do wonder if we're going to see some stuff for like early next year or something. I wonder if there's going to be a shadow drop, because there's been, I want to say, 0 first party games so far this year from Microsoft. Like, none. We got Forza and Halo at the end of last year, and then going into 2022, it was basically radio silent. We didn't hear of anything coming up. There were big games, of course, like Elden Ring was huge when it dropped, and
Yeah.
like Stranger in Paradise was a flash in the pan, I think. And
Yeah,
there's
it-
Horizon Forbidden West. It's definitely interesting, but I wonder if there's like a smaller project. There's probably updates to stuff. Like, I know there was the new Halo season soon, but honestly, I really just care about the co-op, and I want more co-op missions and new single player and PvE stuff for Halo rather than PvP. 'Cause that's more fun to me.
Yeah.
So you did a quick look and nothing?
Not seeing anything that's like really draws my interest just at this moment. I mean, June's going to be the month we're going to be hearing a lot of different
Yes.
stuff. It's become the de facto E3. Even though E3 is currently being canceled again because of the ongoing COVID situation, June has become kind of the go-to month of announcements and
Yeah, because
and
the
kind of like
Keighley,
online
the Summer
bets.
Game Fest starts not that far after that, if I'm not mistaken.
June 9th, Thursday.
Was theirs before it?
Yeah, June
Okay,
9th,
so
you'll
they're
have the
basically
Summer
doing
Game
their own
Fest.
E3 without E3. Does Sony
Yeah.
announce anything? Or Nintendo?
Um,
Nintendo Direct for...
soon.
I'm just curious, Nintendo Direct.
We're gonna probably hear something from Nintendo a little bit closer to the events, probably later in this month. As for Sony, they haven't done anything for years now with E3.
They always have
don't.
something nearby, though. Like, they
Probably
haven't
nearby,
gone...
but
They haven't
but
gone,
they,
that's for sure, but...
mhm. So Nintendo usually announces their stuff a little bit closer to the event when they're doing it, which is fair. That's all right. I mean, that happens.
There is still games coming out that I am interested in this year. Is it, well, while we're still here, we're kind of like finishing up and doing like our last little bit here. Is there any games besides Starfield and Redfall that you're, doesn't matter who it's by, if it's Game Pass or not, that you're like super interested that are coming out that you've seen?
I would have to say I can't think of any right now. I mean, I'm
Can't
terrible
at game names.
at game names, and
I
until it's
mean,
like
I
it's
know that
shoved
the
in my face for the 30th time. Um,
you can take a big quick
I
look.
mean,
We still
the
haven't heard a
Shadowrun
lot.
trilogy is coming out on PlayStation, Xbox, and Switch. I wish there would be
Game
another
Pass.
Shadowrun game. Oh,
Game
I already
Pass.
have. I already own the Shadowrun trilogy on
I was
Steam.
gonna say, I'm like, I saw it on Game Pass.
Um,
Like it's coming on Game Pass. I'm like, oh, okay.
eh,
I think I have one of the Shadowrun games, but I'm not. I wasn't a big fan of the way it was set up, so I kind of never went back to it. It might have been on like Twitch gaming or whatever.
I would probably say
Prime
it's fair of
gaming.
me to say I definitely enjoy the world of Shadowrun. Um,
Yes, Shadowrun is a cool world, but I feel like the RPG that they built is good, but I think
it could be better.
it could be better. And I'm not trying
It
to be
it
like I don't like Shadowrun because I do. I
it,
really
it
like
just
Shadowrun's world.
it just doesn't capture um the feeling of storytelling that you get from the tabletop version of it.
No,
Like
no.
you don't quite get the you can get it a little bit, but you have to put it out there. Um, I would say one of the possibilities that I'm waiting on the announcement for is Homeworld 3. That's an old one that an old series, but it's a new game that's come supposedly in the works. Uh, I'm so far. I mean, like Starfield, definitely look forward to. Uh, I would say
Any stuff you saw at the last Xbox Bethesda thing you were interested in, like Avowed? You want to know more about, or the new Fable?
I was never a fan of Fable.
I'm gonna be honest
I
with you.
which isn't to say it's a bad game. Which isn't to
You
say it's a
have
bad game. I've always been interested in something else at a time when I had an opportunity to purchase it. Um,
Fable. Fable was that game that came out and it was promises to the moon and underdelivered, the very first one. And I have gone back since they're all on Game Pass, and I did try them at one point, and damn, I have to say, just damn, they did not age well. And I know some people still love them, and that's totally fine. I'm very interested to see what Playground Games, yes, the developers of Forza Horizons 5,
mhm.
um, do with Fable, because there's no Peter Molyneux involved this time, so maybe it won't have a janky combat system and weird mini games where I have to chop logs to make money or to build up experience or to build up stats. There are interesting concepts that are in Fable, but I don't think they were well executed ever, and I just barely could get into it.
Yeah.
So Avowed in the Pillars of Eternity, I believe it is, universe.
Mhm.
That looks like a Skyrim-y type game, first-person dungeon explorer kind of game, maybe. Sword and sorcery, maybe
Yeah.
that piques your
Well,
interest. We saw like
there's Steel
arrows
Rising
flying
coming
through
out
the air.
later
Yeah.
this year. Angel of Death Trail. That looks pretty interesting.
See, you have very different games on your radar than I do. Coming out for me is the second AI game. I believe it's like the Nirvana. If you've never heard of AI, the Somnium files. I have the Switch version here, handy. The second game is coming out. It's kind of if you're into Japanese storytelling, you might get a kick out of this. It's You're playing a detective and you're trying to figure out, trying to get to the end of the murders, and the game's a little bit weird in spots. I think that's safe to say, because your main character has a false eye that is
Mhm.
a girl. Not like an
Interesting.
AI. It's an AI, and her name is Aiba
Mhm.
for eyeball. It's a good plan where it's very Japanese.
We'll
It
see.
is very Japanese, and if you like kind of murdery mystery type things where you're trying to figure stuff out and it tells you the world as it goes with some quirky humor, I can recommend it. Second game is supposed to be out soon, and I want to know what's up. It's weird because if you look at the second game, the main character's not on the cover, but I can't tell you why.
Oh,
I can't tell you why. I can't tell you why. Honestly, if you
Did
have
she tell
any...
someone how deeply she cares about them? That's how you end up dead in these games.
Nah.
Oh,
Oh,
I
it's on
thought of
the
you with
first
my
one.
son. Oh, he gonna die.
No, the first one is on Game Pass, and if you have any interest in it, you could give it a shot.
I'll
You might get a
definitely
kick
give
out of
a
it.
try. I mean, the thing is like with Steel Rising, it's like what would happen if automatons fought in the French Revolution? And I'm like, okay, you got
What would
me.
happen? What would happen? I'm in. No,
I'm
for
kind of
sure.
interested. Let me know what would happen.
I mean, that's the thing. Alternate history is a cool thing.
Yeah, it's always nice because being kind of a history buff and always interested in just real history, it's always fun to be playing this silly game where you're playing an automaton or a robot or some superpower hero or anything, and then encounter something in history and go, oh, I know about that.
Oh yeah. No, that's the thing. It's very different, and I think that'll be interesting for people because there's gonna be JRPGs and stuff like Soul Hackers 2, which is coming out soon that I'm very excited for. And you're probably like, what?
I
You
think I
probably
heard
take
that
one
one
look
in
at it.
passing.
It
Um,
it's a sequel to a Sega Saturn game, but not
the
connected,
name
and
I
you don't
haven't
have to play
heard
the first
of
one.
in many years.
Yeah, I
I
know.
still have my Sega Saturn in my parents' basement.
Oh fuck, that thing's worth some money now.
And Madden 95, I
Oh,
think.
that's not
And then one of the
worth some.
Sega games.
That's not
One
worth
of the
some money.
Sega games.
Panzer Dragoon.
Stargate. I remember that one being one of the games I played. Oh god.
But yeah, yeah, it's like a Sega Saturn game, and they're finally making a sequel. They're reviving the franchise, which is cool. And it doesn't seem to have the Shin Megami. Okay, I keep saying this weird. I caught myself the other day. Shin Megami Tensei, because everyone calls it Megama. My God, it's Megami Goddess, Death Goddess.
Yeah.
Shin Megami Tensei, which spin-off, which one of the spin-offs was Persona, which is also kind of a big deal now. But again, you don't live in that world of weird JRPGs. You live in the anime world. I'm surprised you haven't crossed over to JRPGs yet.
Well, I mean, there's definitely the thing is a lot of stuff has been kind of like delayed across the board, be it anime or a lot of the games.
Yeah, we still haven't heard hide no hair of that cyberpunk anime that Trigger was working on. Studio Trigger.
Yeah, I'd be interested in seeing that.
Oh,
but
Studio
that's
Trigger makes
also-
some weird stuff. You watched the Star Wars, the anime Star Wars thing? I can't remember what it's called. Legends or whatever. It was on Disney Plus.
Oh yes. Oh my god.
Yeah, the one with the
twins.
twins. That was Studio Trigger. Studio Trigger actually had two. I can't remember the other one. Was there the band?
Studio Trigger's pretty good. They were all good. I love the. I really.
I think I
really
got as
wish
far
they
as
would-
the one with the band, and I wanted to watch more, and then I just keep getting sidetracked, and I never go back to it. I'll get back to it one day. I'll watch the rest of them. Oh man, the Ronin one. I'd watch a whole show like that. The very first
the
one.
Ronin. Yes,
Oh my god, that was so cool.
that was such
like-
a well done one.
He's gonna be the hero. And then you see his lightsaber, like, oh shit. That was like,
That was such
yes.
a well done one. I could not believe how well they did that. I was all of them. Honestly, all of them.
Fix
Like there were some
destroyed.
that was a little silly, but even the ones
Oh, the
that
band
I've
one? I
seen,
think the band one was the silliest.
that
The
one
one
I
with the
liked
band.
still though.
It
Like
was really good.
I want to say the one that's like the kid is like actually a robot or created.
I don't know if I saw that one. I saw, like I said, I saw the one with the twins, and I'm like, oh, this is Studio Trigger. Like their art style was all over it, and weird stuff happened, and I'm like, yes. Did you watch Little Witch Academia?
A little bit of it.
Okay, it was a Studio Trigger thing. The movie or the series? Because there's like a move. There's two movies that are
The
kind of
series is
self-contained.
usually I go towards series because I wanna be sitting there for a while.
Well, the movies will run you about 2-3 hours to watch both of them.
Yeah.
They're decent. The series is pretty good, but that's like what Studio Trigger wanted to make, and they crowdfunded it, and they changed the ending at the last second, which I'm not kind of okay with. I don't like that. I don't like it. But that's okay. Um, yeah. So E3 season's coming,
Mhm. Yeah,
and we'll definitely
we're gonna get to see some new information. Definitely looking forward to hear something about Starfield that isn't just here's a picture we drew in our spare time. Thanks, little Timmy. I appreciate that.
check out this
But
sweet spaceport.
I
Okay,
I would
cool. What do I
like
do here?
show me some gameplay. Show me something that makes me go, okay, yes. Give me that Todd Howard magic presentation because he's amazing at presenting his stuff. I love him for that.
Yeah,
But
I am a little. Still share your concern
yeah,
with
like it's probably nothing. I hope it actually works. But each time I say it's
just
probably
perks.
nothing, or they've learned from their lessons, they've learned their lessons from their other people's mistakes. That's usually the time right before they go, "Oh, wait, you want to see a new mistake? Hold my beer."
Well,
and and
they've got
they
much more
proceed to
funding
screw
now,
it up
so
in an even worse fashion than I ever thought they could possibly do that. Like I wouldn't like even if we had a decent experience on PC with Cyberpunk 2077, what they did, I would never in a million years have been like, this is something that I would possibly see um, CD Projekt Red do, which they very
yeah,
much misled people, and they out EA'd EA,
they
and I
did.
would not have ever in a million years been like, this is something I should look out for from CD Projekt Red. I would never
No,
have thought that.
they had a lot of goodwill going into it, but the same with
Hmm.
Bethesda going into Fallout 76. They had a lot
Yeah,
of community goodwill, and they said all the right
well,
things,
you got
and it
the
was
community goodwill, the fans of the series itself. There's a huge fandom for the Fallout series, and
uh,
then like I said before, the mod community. There's just like Bethesda's coming out with something else, and you could just hear all the mod developers just start licking their lips, going, "Yes, tell me what am I
yep,
making something for?" And they would enjoy it, and it was fun.
for
But
sure. But we have been going on for almost 2 hours now. Woo! It's gonna be fun to edit this down a bit. Probably not too much.
we'll do a
So
3-hour series.
3 hours next time. 3 hours
Yeah,
next time. I don't know what next week we're going to talk about. It depends on what gets announced this week.
yeah, we'll see what's up and go from there.
Yeah, for sure.
Talk,
This was fun
talk
though.
some snack along the way.
Got some smack. Oh my god. Show us the games. You want us to talk about your games? Show us the games.
Yeah,
I think we've
just
seen
give us
more.
something.
We've seen more. Like I have to give Japanese devs props because they will actually show their games. There's like you can type in Soul Hackers 2 and get gameplay footage for it. Like real in-game footage for the game. Is it graphically amazing? No. Does it look a little bit cel shaded anime? Yes. But is that bad? No. All right.
All right. Have a good one, everybody.
またね。